Baby, I don't like it in here.
So what's the matter with you?
Where did he go?
Wild. Put your soul into it. Wild. What's going on around you?
And welcome to Haunting Live podcast this week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are live on YouTube, and you can also catch us later on the podcast apps if you missed the live show here today. But thank you very much for following us on our social media, as well as all the new subscribers lately to our YouTube channel. We noticed the increase in subscribers lately, so we appreciate that. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like our videos and hit that subscribe button, and that helps us out a lot here at Haunting Live podcast. Well, today we do have a special guest with us. We're very honored to have a medium here with us, Reverend Stephen Hermann, and he's going to be talking to us today about his journey through mediumship. So let's bring him in here today. Hello, how are you?
Oh, well, I'm really happy to be here, Trevor. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. I appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to join us to talk about your journey and what you do. So let's start there. How did you get into mediumship, and what drew you into the field?
Gosh, well, the thing with mediumship is once you get into a little bit, you can't escape. So it's something that everybody has to some extent, and it's just like an artistic or musical type of ability. So everyone has it to some extent. And definitely, once you start working on it or developing awareness of it, you really can't escape it, which is a really good thing. But I've really been pretty much open to the spirit world, my whole life, and I'm involved in spiritualism, which is a spiritual movement which integrates spirit communication and healing as part of the practices. So I've been very involved with mediumship and developing. When I was little, I certainly had quite a few experiences and was very open to the spirit world. And when I say it's addictive, unlike certain types of substances that you can get addicted to that have harmful effects, when you get into mediumship, it's exhilarating. It's something which is very positive, and really the purpose behind it is to help other people with their soul growth here in this material world.
So what made you decide to get into it then, after you discovered that you had sort of these abilities in yourself? Was there something that led you down that path, or was there some decision that made you go, I think I'd like that?
Yeah, I've just always been really, really drawn to it. I mean, the first time the spirit world talked to me, my mom's father, my grandfather, who I never met, talked to me when I was 2. I remember that. So I had a lot of different experiences. I remember I was watching this one. It's like this is on TV. This is when I was 5 years old, and it was this documentary about different types of churches. So I mean, you name the church, they had it, and they would describe it, and they had some footage and everything. And I remember going back. The things that really stood out was they had a church in San Francisco, and it was 2 men getting married. So I was like, what the heck? What's that going on there? Which my mother had to explain to me. But then they said, we're going to take you to England with a spiritualist church where they communicate with the dead. And I was like just instantaneously drawn to that. And it was just this guy standing up in a church, standing up and talking to all these old people sitting in the church. So I was a little bit like, what the heck? Because I wasn't sure what it would be, but I was very much drawn to that. And I still remember both those 2 specific things from that one documentary, many years later. And so as I was drawn to it, I learned meditation when I was little. I was getting into that. I was always drawn to that. And what happens is with mediumship is, the spirit world is literally all around us. So they will do their best to open people up and to make people aware of their presence. And there's certainly some people who come into this physical world with a disposition toward it. And I think in those cases, they probably put more emphasis. So you do have some people who, they're kids or they're adolescents, and they start to open up and everything, which is really good.
Yeah, speaking of that, how was that for you when you were a child? Were you fairly open to hearing spirits or communicating with spirits? Like, did you have a lot of experiences with that?
Yeah, I was pretty open. I'm really artistically oriented, and so when we talk about mediumship, we're working with our intuitive abilities or psychic abilities, which everyone, everybody's psychic. I sometimes joke and say sometimes people are a bit psychotic too. But, people hear voices and you need to be medicated. But, you can hear the spirit world, you can sense them, and it's around us, right? It's telepathic. So, of course, just on a purely psychic level, if you're sensitive, you can pick things up from other people. You have telepathically or just on an energetic type of level. Let's say someone is depressed or they're angry. You're going to be aware of those emotions, those energies, because it's right there within their energy field. So that's a really good thing. I never really had any type of problem, people accepting me. I pretty much just do my own thing anyway. I don't care too much about what other people think. I'm pretty independent minded. But I've always been, very creative oriented. I do a lot of art and that type of thing too. So I think doing that is also certainly when you're doing art, your mind is very open. You're using that part of the mind, which involves intuition.
Yes, for sure. I think a lot of more creative people like that have a lot more ability. I don't know if that's fully true, but I think they have a more open mind to those type of things.
They're more in touch with it and everything too. Now, it's. I mean, if we get involved, I teach mediumship worldwide. I go all over the place, and if let's say I'm doing a workshop, there's 20 people at it, for example. There's probably the majority of the people at the workshop are going to be women. You might have one or two males who are there, maybe their wife or girlfriend dragged them there and everything. And that's because you have to be in touch with your sensitivity. And, there's a tendency for males are being more analytically oriented, this type of thing. So it really, you see a lot of women predominantly who are involved with mediumship.
Yes, we found that as well throughout the field. The time that we've been doing even paranormal stuff, I find that more females are into the topic of paranormal
well, the other thing
itself as well.
Men involved. I would say more of the men who are involved tend to be gay. just because they're more in touch with the feminine. They're more in touch with the sensitivity, so to speak. And I know you do the work with the paranormal type of stuff too. So you're going into these houses and checking all this stuff out. But the spirit world's all around. So let's say someone lives in some house for years. Well, the residue energy is going to be there, isn't it? Or if someone gets, axe murdered in one of the rooms, well, that energy, which is very chaotic, maybe even very negative or dark and very dense, it's going to be very easy for someone who's sensitive really to feel that energy. And you certainly can also, as you're open up the spirit world, which is all around as well.
So did you have any type of experiences then when you were sort of developing these abilities that you have with mediumship? Did you have something that happened to you that was one thing that stood out to you as your first experience?
Oh God! Well, my first experience, like I say, was when I was around 2.5. My grandfather talked to me, and he'd passed over, 20-something years before I was born, so I never met the guy. And then he wanted me to talk to. I thought it was God, I didn't. Anyway, I could see him, and I could hear him just like I'm hearing you. In terms of the clairaudience, being able to hear it. And I remember he wanted me to talk to my mom and tell my mom, that he had said hello and this type of thing, which I did. And I just, I had this dream, I had a dream about God, but I didn't, just thought that was nice, but I didn't really, it didn't all click until later, in terms of that. So that would have been my first experience. And I mentioned, watching the thing on TV, which I think is pretty cool. But, I had a lot of, out of body, or I was, very open to the spirit world and everything too, just growing up.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I've talked to some people already on the show here that have had out of body experiences as well, so that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, we have our physical body, but then we have the subtle bodies, which interpenetrate the physical. So they're like a blueprint for the physical. So you know, eventually you're going to kick the bucket. I don't have to be psychic to predict that, but you're going to still exist, but you're going to have this subtle body, and that subtle body is perfect for experiencing things on a subtle level, the spirit, which is all around us in the spirit world. So when someone goes out of their body, what happens usually is their psychic abilities are activated. And what I've observed is, let's just say, sometimes you hear about someone, they have a near-death experience, maybe they're in some car accident or some traumatic event. They find themselves going out of their body, temporary, this type of thing. And gosh, after they come back, they're really open. They start opening up. The other thing that will happen is if when they initially start to open someone up mediumistically, the higher spirits, well, one of the things they will do is they'll actually have the person go out of the body as well. I mean, the individual might hear voices, or they might see spirits, this type of thing, have experiences that way.
Yeah, so you're just talking about if somebody, say, has an accident or they get involved in something serious, they might come back with certain abilities.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that can happen quite often.
Yeah, or some type of accident too. They get hit by lightning, this type of thing, and then they end up, well, I can, see spirits. And it's because the subtle body. I mean, we're always in the subtle body anyway, but we're not always in touch with, using it and everything. That's the whole thing. So it gets disconnected, and then you start getting, or you go completely out. But people travel out of their body pretty much all the time anyway, on an unconscious level. It's like sleepwalking. While they're asleep, they'll actually go places. So sometimes people will have these very vivid dreams, of going places, of maybe interacting with people who are deceased, or in some cases, even people who are in the physical world. Like, let's just say I went out of my body, and, while you're asleep, and, you have this dream. Here I am, I'm hanging out with you and stuff. And, and you might just think of it as a dream, but it would be very vivid, very intense, and it would really stand out in it quite differently and distinctly than how a regular dream would. That's just a product of your own unconscious mind.
Is that something that you teach your clients, is how to kind of control those things, or to
I teach
use those?
mediumship, full time. I work all over the world. I grew up in Massachusetts. I live out in California right now, and I teach. So I teach online, in person, and we've had the pandemic the last year and a half, so more of my work has been online. But typically, I travel around, and I do a lot of teaching. So I teach all different levels. From someone who they could be an engineer, really anally retentive, really rigid, with their thinking, and it's all very structured. So educationally, so even if someone is really seemingly blocked off or feels they're a total psychic idiot, they don't have any abilities, in the right atmosphere, if they're nurtured the right way and they put the energy into it and they're assisted, I'm kind of used to dealing with all sorts. I mean, you name it. I can help someone with their blocks, so to speak. I also I've authored Mediumship Mastery, which is my book on mediumship development, and that's available on Amazon. And this is not a book about me; it's a book about how to develop. It's used for training mediums by many teachers worldwide, in terms of groups or individually, how to open up. There's quite a few exercises. And then I have a second book is going to be coming out pretty soon, Mediumship Mastery 2, which will also be on Amazon. Advanced techniques that work.
What kind of techniques do you have in there for, say, the beginner person?
Well, lots of stuff. I mean, the things when someone is novice, let's say someone you've got two different types of people who come to classes. Okay, you have people who are really analytical and blocked off, and then you have people who are really open, and they're not always in touch with it, right? And they certainly are not disciplined or are able to control it. Now, in both those cases, you could have someone who's really analytical who they're really still interested in learning. And that seems to be the big thing, is does someone open up? Now, someone who comes into a class situation and they really are analytical, it's going to take them usually a little bit longer as part of the process, to open up and everything, compared to someone who's already open. They just need to, work with it more and discipline. And the discipline part's really essential for any type of mediumship. Just like we have microwavable food and instant. Well, mediumship, it's like microwavable mediumship. People want, I'm going to go to Saturday. I'm going to be able to channel these high masters and levitate up to the ceiling after the weekend workshop. It's really like anything. I mean, like artistically, how you would work, let's say as a teenager or as a child, very different than when you're in your 70s. Let's say in your entire life, you've been working as a career. Sometimes you see these art history books, right, where they start out the early work of the artist and they go through the whole career, and you can see the evolution. Mediumship is kind of the same way. So with someone who's, new, like you're asking about, you really want to get them in touch, not so much with connecting with the spirit world as much as connecting with themselves, and also cultivating an awareness energetically of the environment around them. So there's quite a few different exercises you can do with energy fields or auras, with telepathy, mind-to-mind communication between people incarnate, here. And there's things even like psychometry, and that's where you take an object. Like I've got this pen right here. I've got my cell phone. Well, both these things, if I'm using them a lot, it has my energy on it. So someone who's sensitive, they could hold this pen, and they could mentally tune in with it, and they would feel, the energies. They'd feel things about myself, related to it and everything. It's quite interesting because you could have an archaeological item or artifact, maybe something from another part of the world, geological specimen. Someone could hold that, and then they're not even aware of the spirit world. They're not really even aware that they're psychic, and they would be able to say some things really accurate about that and everything. Thoughts are things. So someone who's first going to open up to the spirit world, it's very good first just to have a real good foundation with a psychic awareness. And also, it's very important, the meditation, going within yourself and really knowing yourself, because with mediumship, I mean, there's certainly techniques you can learn and things you can do, but the more life experience you have, the more you've grown spiritually, it's going to make you a better instrument for the higher spirits to work through and everything. As mediumship, it's all about love, and it's all about soul progression and getting in touch with yourself and getting in touch with God as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually, because I think it would help for somebody to have sort of a little bit of a connection to it to begin with. Like, you had to have that intuitive, you have to have that interest in it before you start learning more about it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but you do have people who get into it, or just, I mean, they think they're a psychic idiot and they're really not in touch with things, and they're blocked off. And when I teach, I make it really fun. The process is more important than the result. It's not about, I've got to be really good, I've got to have my own cable TV show and impress people. It's about service, and it's about love, and it's really about healing. I mean, if you're working as a medium, and there's a lot of different types of mediumship, but primarily let's just talk about like mental mediumship, or working with clairvoyance, which is seeing, clairaudience, hearing, clairsentience, which is feeling. The spirits will impress your mind with communications for people. So one aspect of it is you're able to demonstrate that the continuity, that the personality, you don't kick the bucket and cease to exist. Life isn't just a bunch of chemicals, but the personality continues. So you can get evidential details or information about people in the spirit world. So let's just say you came for a session, and I describe someone to you, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you're talking to your dad on the phone or something. He goes, oh yeah, that was, your uncle so-and-so. And you just didn't know, you see? Now, so that's one aspect of it. Someone can be very atheistic or skeptical, and they can completely have their consciousness shift because of this. The other thing is you get guidance that comes through. I mean, let's say you were having some kind of problem in your life that was really tearing you apart, really hurting, you're really going through a lot. Well, they can come through with information, not like fortune telling, oh, you're going to meet a man with a gold tooth next week, or, you're going to eat pizza Wednesday night, predicting things. It's more, advice or counsel on a soul type of level to help you, which will certainly deal with on a practical level too with things. And that can really help someone. They're going to take their own life and then, based on the information that comes to me, completely get them to another place. I mean, we still have to do the work. The spirit world, we have to take personal responsibility thing, but the spirit world is definitely there. They're around us. And the more someone learns how to quiet their mind, get the clutter out of the way, get the analytical mind out of the way, and just be receptive, they're going to learn how to receive, but also how to respond to the guidance and actually put it into action. But we always have free will, of course.
So what's the one most beneficial thing that you find that your students or your clients come to you for? What's the one most thing that they get out of your classes?
Well, I guess, the big thing is, with clients, obviously that is a bit, if I'm working with some, because I do sessions with people or groups, that kind of thing, that really varies with the individual, and if the conditions are right, it's going to be a really, really, really good session, and they're going to get spiritual guidance. They're going to have people connected to them come through, this type of thing. So that can help. I suppose it's different for each person because everyone's in a different place. But in terms of educationally, if someone really wants to grow, I do individualized mentoring, that type of thing too with students. I can really help, because I'm I've got decades experience, the last 40 years, and very, 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 very involved, in studying, working with it, and teaching it. So I've pretty much, you name the problem that someone could have, I probably have seen it and had to work with people with that. So regardless of someone's level of experience, I can definitely help it. So someone who grows and opens up that way, they're going to start feeling, my gosh, I'm getting in touch with this. And over a period of time, they're going to gain a lot of confidence, really learn to trust themselves, their abilities, and also really trust the people who are working with them in the spirit world. Because mediumship it's all cooperative effort. It's all teamwork. One of the laws of mediumship is like attracts like. So what we put out energetically, we attract similar-minded spirits. So if you're really motivated, you genuinely want to help people, from your heart, and you really have the intention of being of service, and you care about other people that way, and you want to help them, you're going to attract similar-minded spirits. And the thing is, one's lifestyle, how one takes care of oneself, one's thoughts, all of that has to do with what you're putting out. So the spirituality is really, really, really important. The prayer, the meditation, raising your own vibration up, because the spirits, they have to lower their rate of vibration. So the more, as individuals, mediums, raise their vibration, there's this blending that takes place and connection that takes place mentally and energetically. And they're all around us, but you can certainly be someone who studies mediumship and you're just a total jerk, like you really don't care about other people, maybe treat them really poorly, or you don't work on yourself. I mentioned before about there's a fine line between being psychic and psychotic. Well, if you really are emotionally just imbalanced, yeah, you could be really open to the spirit world, but it works through your mind. And the more you understand yourself and are balanced and harmonious and functional, you're going to be a much better vehicle for them to work through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, it does. And I think what you hit on there works too, because you have to attract a certain kind of client that you want to work with as well, right? Because if you attract the negativity, you're going to attract sort of a person that doesn't want to help, or they're closed off to it, and then you can't really help that person, right?
Yeah, well, that's really true. With probably any field where you're working with people. I remember actually, this must have been 20 years ago or something. I think a third of my students were all mental health professionals. So they're like social workers, psychotherapists, psychiatric doctors, and nurses, counselors, this type of thing. And a lot of those people, why do they study psychology? Because they're trying to figure themselves out and heal, their own lives. And sometimes they don't necessarily do such a, they're not that necessarily that successful, but a lot of them, they really do want to help people. They get into it and they start opening up to the spirit world. So many people within those fields will study mediumship and everything too. And the emotional growth and is very, 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 very important. You're only as good as as you've worked on yourself. If you really, and you can't force development either. It's one of these things where the spirit world will only be able to utilize you to the extent that you've actually made yourself a good instrument to work through. And and that's different for different people too. We have different spiritual gifts.
Yeah, so true. A lot of people think they have different levels, but some may not be aware of exactly what levels you have. So is that one thing that you do, is sort of teach people to learn what they have, what abilities they have?
Yeah, to get in touch with it and feel comfortable, and just realize it's like a flower. You have the bulb, and then all the petals come out gradually. That's kind of how it works. The best times to develop mediumship, I should say, the fastest times, and it's very quick, tends to be during puberty and menopause. And that's because of all the natural hormonal changes, biologically, that are taking place. So in most cases, it's a little bit gradual. It's not quite as quick as those periods in life, but it's different for different people. And so you might, unfold, let's say you start seeing the spirits, you're really clairvoyant. And after you've been in it for 10 years and you've really got this foundation that way, because they're working with your chemistry too and your energy, they may be able to, you may be at a point where it evolves and where they actually start working with other types of mediumship and everything. So it's really important for mediums to sit for development, with by themselves, of course, daily, but also sit with a group where you have the right type of energy. When 2 or 3 or more are gathered in the name of God, well, you've got that divine presence. So you have like a collective energy that's created. And if you have the same group or circle sitting over a period of time, things can really, really build up, and a lot can be done. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, I really love mediumship, and I get very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, well, definitely if you switch your whole career to be just focused on that, it must be something that you really enjoy doing.
Oh, I don't even think of it as a job. I just love it. It's not really about, I mean, obviously I have to make, a living, but it's not really what I'm thinking about. I just like doing it, and it's really fun. I get to meet some really amazing people, not just here, but in the spirit world too. I mean, you learn so much about human psychology, or just what makes people tick, because you have spirits that come through and maybe they've just really screwed things up. Like, and we really think about how many people waste their whole lives, or a lot of their lives, or they don't learn as well as they could. Well, if you need 50 years of psychotherapy, I always say, and you don't get it, you're going to have to get it when you pass over. So, you have people coming through from the spirit world, and they'll talk about their defects, the issues they had. Why? To help the people who are the recipients, maybe who are going through the same kind of situation, don't handle it the way I handled it, and so we can really learn a lot from people who've passed over. And you definitely can really learn, from people that come to you too. I know you were mentioning before about, attracting the right types of people. Well, I mean, really, there's a bit of that, but there's also quite a bit of spirit direction where they'll actually direct people to you and everything. And so I think the more training a medium has, the more qualifications that way and experience, they're really going to be, and they've worked on themselves, they have the experience behind them, they're really going to be able to help someone on a pretty deep level. And it's not just like telling someone, like I said before, oh, what's going to happen 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now. You certainly could have a prediction that comes through, but that's not really what it's about. It's on a deeper level.
Yeah, it's on a much deeper level. It's on a mediumship level, not just a psychic awareness level where you're, like you say, trying to protect this or that. You're trying to actually communicate with energies. So, like you said, raise yourself higher. So, but exactly. Thank you so much, Steve, for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk to us about your journey and what you do as a medium. It's been very insightful. So I thank you for that. Yeah, I'm really glad to be. I just want to say too, I have a YouTube channel too. So if you look, Steve Hermann Medium, if you look, I've got lots of videos. The focus is
on mediumship education, which is on YouTube. And, I've got my book, Mediumship Mastery, The Ultimate Guide, which is on Amazon. And certainly if you have questions about mediumship or any of this stuff, I'm really into helping people with their growth. And, even if you don't know anything about it, that's what I do, is to help people. And I think it's a real blessing to be able to be on your show. And I just think what you're doing is really good. And I'm very appreciative of being able to talk.
Oh, no, I appreciate it very much. Thank you again for taking time out. It was, like I said, very insightful to learn about your journey and how you got into things and exactly what you do for people. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
And have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Well, God bless you.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. It was great to have him on as a guest this week. And thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out our YouTube. We are live on YouTube today, and we're live here each and every week with a new guest. So if you're new here to Haunting Live, what we do is a paranormal channel. We have different guests on that are in different areas of the paranormal field each and every week, and we talk to them about what they do. Normally it's a topic around mediumship or communicating with spirit, but we do have different topics as well. So check us out. We have a lot of different content right here on YouTube. We have also our content on the podcast apps as well. So if you missed the live show, you can always just check us out later on the podcast apps. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this week. Don't forget, though, to check us out each and every week right here on Haunting Live Podcast. And also don't forget to like our videos. That helps us out, as well as don't forget to subscribe if you want to subscribe as well. That helps us out as well. So before we do let you go, though, don't forget to check out our official website, which is HauntingLivePodcast.com. We have a lot of stuff up there as well for you guys. We have a merch store as well on our website where you can get different things for the paranormal field, such as crystals, things for cleansing items such as sage and cedar and smudging materials, stuff like that. Lots of different crystal items also for protection and different things as well for your chakras, stuff like that. So head on over to HauntingLivePodcast.com, check out our merch. We have great items on there for sale for you guys too. So other than that, guys, we'll cut it short here. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to check us out here each and every week on Haunting Live Podcast.
Life's crazy. I don't like it in here.
Hey, what's the matter with you?
Where did you go?
Wild. What's your soul live to it? Wild. What's going on around you?